Why do they never go in for me? The next record I remember queuing up for at our price, and I think this was when people realised that maybe I wasn't so straight ahead in my musical taste. I remember turning up back at school. I think I ducked out at lunchtime to go out to our price. I must have been at school. Wasn't released. Records weren't released on a Saturday, so I must have been at school. So I went there at lunchtime, and I remember picking this up, going there, and specifically to get this, and bringing it back, and people going, "Why'd you buy that for?" Because it's good. Iconic picture there. So this is always touted as the Smiths' greatest record. I really don't think. I mean, don't get me wrong. This is a brilliant record, absolutely brilliant. But I don't think it's their best. I think I like Meat Is Murder more, and I actually like Strange Ways more than this. I think I'd gone through a slight period, sort of just before this. I think The Boy with a Thorn in His Side, I didn't actually rate so highly. I'd gone through a bit of a dip in my infatuation with them. And Big Mouth, which was the other single released off this, don't have a copy of Boy. In fact, I've got this 5 original releases that I don't have, including This Charming Man, and Boy with a Thorn in His Side is one of them. I kind of went through a bit of a period where, maybe other things were taking, like things like the Cult, I don't know, probably the Cult at the time, and Kate Bush and other stuff had just taken over a bit. And this, maybe that's why I don't like this as much as, not that I don't like it, I love it. There's so many good songs on here, but it's not my favourite. Probably because of my own personal thoughts and feelings and stuff about it. I mean, apart from the singles, the best known song on here is There Is a Light That Never Goes Out. And I thought that was kind of almost like a caricature of a Smiths song, especially the bit for Double Decker. But I thought it was Morrissey taking the mickey, to be honest. Like the stereotype typical Smith song would be, "Oh dear, doom is me, whoa, I love but I'm gonna die," and that's what that song's kind of represented for me. So it's not my favourite one. In fact, I wouldn't put it necessarily in my top 10 Smith songs. But what I do love on this is some of the other tracks, some of the ones that maybe aren't so well remembered now. I mean, I love Cemetery Gates. I think that is just a perfect amalgamation of sunny, summery music and then the wit of the song. I always find that song funny, where they're talking about, where Morrissey goes on about how they used to have contests naming bits of prose and poetry and trying to guess who wrote it, and the bit where he goes on saying a line that could only be written by a person, and then whipping out the book where it came from. In fact, the best songs on here are the funny songs. I like, frankly, Mr. Shankly, I think, is an absolute genius song, encapsulating Morrissey's attitude to work, but kind of, and it is such, it could have been the scene in Billy Liar where he talks about working for Shadrach, the funeral directors he works for. I just thought it was uncanny. It was like Billy Liar set to music. Things like I Know It's Over is heartbreaking. And I'm sure I've played that song over and over again when relationships have come to an end, and it beats There Is a Light That Never Goes Out hollow for me. I mean, the bit where they say, if you're so funny, then why you're on your own tonight? And if you're so clever, why you're on your own tonight? And if you're so very entertaining, why you're on your own tonight? Was I a manic teenage depressive? I don't know. Maybe I was. So yeah, for me, Queen is Dead is kind of an excellent album, but not a great album. Still love it though. They then went on a run of brilliant singles, absolutely amazing singles that were all, I'm pretty sure, none of these were released on an album until, most of them until this thing came out, which is The World Won't Listen. I got this a lot later, actually. Not a lot later, maybe after they'd broken up, because I had a lot of the songs on 7-inch, but I'll get to that in a minute. So the first one they released in this slew of singles was Panic, which now is taken to be as a sign of Morrissey's anti-disco stance. But to be honest, what this song meant to me was an absolute negation of Radio Bloody One and Steve Wright and all those funny ha-ha people that are on the radio thinking they were so up their own arses, thinking they were oh so bloody funny. And I thought they were all damn idiots. At this point, the Smiths were never played on the radio. Absolutely never. Now you get stations like Virgin and XFM and they're played all the time. They were never played. You might get to see them on Top of the Pops because they'd have the highest new entry at number, 14 or something. But this song was an absolute rallying call for me. It hit home how much the Smiths mirrored my life, because this was them talking about the music that I loved. And I wasn't anti-disco at all, but I could so relate to this, but maybe not, but in a different way, where it was just against the crap that spewed out of the radio, and it really did have no meaning to my life whatsoever. After that, you had Ask, which is kind of like the great Uther Joyce on the cover. Two brilliant pictures of Uther Joyce. Ask is all about, it was almost like, come on, stop wrapping yourself up in this loneliness and shyness and get out there and go and get a good shag. And this kind of 86, this came out, and it would have been mirrored first girlfriends and stuff. So again, wallop. It was uncanny that the songs kind of mirrored exactly what I was feeling. It was really odd. Wasn't so keen on the next one, Shoplifters of the World Unite. I've kind of got more into it more recently. It's all about people stealing away what you feel, and you shouldn't let them. And also it's about taking stuff. It's not literally people stealing stuff from shops, but it's like more about cultural steal, reuse, do whatever you want with it, keep the art alive. That's what I took this from this, but this one didn't mean so much to me personally. And then came what is probably my favourite single musically. Absolutely loved this. It's Johnny Marr doing Glam. Best T-Rex impersonation. This is Sheila Take a Bow. And I remember I had a massive poster of this on my wall. This was a brilliant song. Is a brilliant song. Absolutely loved it. So yeah, a lot of this stuff was replicated on this, which I bought later. But again, there were songs on here that I love, that I absolutely adore, that weren't on anywhere else. Because I had always bought the 7-inch singles, I didn't have the song London, which is a cracking song. It's got a brilliant Johnny Marr riff. Things like Asleep, which people denigrate as being just as a half-baked suicide song now, but I just find it so affecting still. If I hear that, I'm usually blubbering wreck in the corner somewhere, even now. And then That Joke Isn't Funny Anymore, and they're both on here. Just as well not next to each other, because I would be an absolute mess. It's also got the song that would have been released instead of Shoplifters as the single You Just Haven't Earned It Yet, Baby. And I don't know, neither of them are particular favourites of mine, but it's nice to have that anyway. So there's that. I never bought Louder Than Bombs because that was more of an American introduction. Yeah, it shared. I really didn't need it because I had everything else. There was no point in me getting that. So the next thing that I got was their final album. And I remember reading that they were breaking up. And I was gutted. Really gutted. It's probably the first time that a band breaking up had really had an effect on me. And this is a brilliant album. I think I love this way more than The Queen Is Dead. I think Morrissey's lyrics are just unbelievable. The music has gone to another level, to be honest. Rush and a Push and The Land Is Ours. I started something I couldn't finish, which is just hysterically funny. Stop Me If You Think You've Heard This One Before. No, Started Something I Couldn't Finish isn't funny. Stop Me If You Think You Heard This One Before is really funny. I think that's one of their great comedy songs. I Started Something I Couldn't Finish is more unrequited. This time from kind of the perspective of somebody pushing something that the other person didn't want, which, again, I've been in that position probably a little bit too. And just the regret that you feel when you do that to somebody is not good. Death of a Disco Dancer musically is one of their best things, I think. Last Night I Dreamt of Somebody Lovely is heartbreaking. To be honest, there isn't a single song on here that I don't like, even the one Death at One's Elbow, which most Smiths fans think is awful. But it ties in with another literary figure I love, and I'm pretty sure that Morrissey read, Joe Orton. Joe Orton was an amazing playwright, gay playwright, in the early 60s, mid-60s. And he wrote things like Loot. And his worldview seems to filter down to Morrissey almost wholly intact. It's very sexual, quite bizarre at times. Maybe that didn't filter down because Joe Orton's writing was quite bizarre at times. He had characters do some really strange stuff. I've talked about him before and about his Beatles script that he submitted, which I think is a great read. But I was really into, about this time, Joe Orton's diaries were released. And Death at One's Elbow comes direct from one of Joe Orton's plays, forgotten. I think it might be Loot, but I'm not sure. And it's a retelling of the night that Joe's partner murdered him from the perspective of Kenneth Halliwell, who was Joe Orton's lover. So it's all wrapped up in that. There's an awful lot of, I think there's quite a bit of violence in these songs at times, but particularly in that one. And of course it's got Paint a Vulgar Picture, Repackage, Reissue, whatever it is. But even that's only taken at face value, because framing the whole of that song about reissue, repackage, reevaluate the songs is how it feels to be a fan of a band. And what it actually feels like to be a fan of a band like the Smiths, or whoever it is, whether it's Kylie Minogue or Nick Cave. So in the last few records, we had they released 3 more singles, and I got them all. The most interesting one is probably this one, which is I Started Something. Apparently, they were starting to have a few bust-ups. Marvin and Morrissey were starting to have a few bust-ups. And Morrissey got the band to record. Is it this one? No, it isn't that one. Which one is it? Is it that one? Which one was it? That's Russia and Ruffians. Oh, it was this one, Girlfriend in a Coma. That's the first one. I had these in the wrong order. So this was the first single off of Strange Ways, Here We Come. And it's a Cilla Black cover called Work is a 4-letter word. And apparently Ma told Morrissey that he wasn't in a band to record Cilla Black fucking covers. So that was basically, I think there was other stuff going on, but that was the catalyst that caused them to split up, that particular song. On the cover is Sheila Delaney, who wrote, oh for goodness sake, what did she write? Sheila Delaney wrote A Taste of Honey. Taste of Honey, which was a book that, a book and a film, but a book that Morrissey particularly loved, and he cadged a load of lyrics through his career of Sheila Delaney. There are many instances where he reused and reframed certain bits of writing. In fact, he picked a lot, like the Joe Orton Death at One's Elbow, which is directly from his writing. So Sheila Delaney was a very important person and ended up as one of the cover stars. One thing I absolutely loved about the Smiths was their covers. I mean, the final 2 singles, there we go, we've got Billy Fury and I've forgotten who that is. That is Avril Angers, who was in a load of early 60s films. What I loved about them was their art. Nobody had records that looked like this. If you went in a record shop and you saw a new record, you could tell immediately, without even seeing that, that's a Smiths cover. You knew exactly what you were getting. And I loved so many of them. Last Night I Dreamt That Somebody Loved Me. Again, what a brilliant song. Absolutely fantastic. And then the final bit, I'm not going to go into Morrissey solo stuff. It didn't mean as much to me as the Smiths. And to be honest, Morrissey's a bit of a jerk now at times. He says a lot of things that I really don't agree with. But I will always be thankful to him and Johnny Marr and Mike Joyce and Andy Rourke for producing so much good music in basically what was 4 years. And the final release was a contractual obligation, and it was the live album Rank, with the beautiful Alexander Bastido from the Champions on the cover. Bit of a waste of a gatefold, to be honest. It's not brilliant gatefold, but you've got a picture of some fans tearing one of Morrissey's shirts to shreds. at the gig. I think this was recorded. Where was it recorded? I think it was recorded at, oh yeah, in Kilburn, 1986. Never saw the Smiths live, so this had to make do for me. Released in '88. Another record I actually went out there, released and bought. It's a good live recording. I mean, it's the closest I'll ever get now to ever seeing the Smiths. So I'm glad that this came out, even though I don't think Morrissey's attitude to it was particularly, well, he was particularly bothered. Apparently it's called Rank because Arthur J. Rank, which is rhyming sank for a five-knuckle shuffle. So there we go. It shows exactly what he thought of that. But I do like this record. I don't pull this one out very often, but I did pull it out to listen to for this video, and it was a really good listen. It's the only place where I've got the Dre's Train, which is an instrumental that the Smiths put out on one of the 12-inch singles that totally rips off Led Zeppelin's Trampled Underfoot. So not only did Morrissey rip people off, but Johnny Marr did at times as well. Still one of my favourite guitarists. The reason I like Johnny Marr is he let things breathe. He couldn't be an out-and-out guitar hero playing solos and stuff because Morrissey's words just wouldn't have worked. You didn't need, Marr was all about like space and the feel of his guitar and the absolute joyousness of some of his riffs and guitar work counterpointed some of the harrowing. I mean, when you Suffer Little Children or That Joke Isn't Funny Anymore, harrowing. And you should also go and read how he actually recorded the guitars for How Soon Is Now. I mean, talk about making... I mean, he was doing stuff that Kevin Shields probably would have been doing, feeding stuff through three phases and doing all kinds of shenanigans that I don't really get. But showing that he's not just a complete jingle jangle merchant. He was actually into producing lots of different sounds on his guitar, which I loved about the Smiths as well. So for me, they were a real complete package, and I loved them. Such an important band for me. Now, I don't know. I think I've got that across in this video. There's probably more that I really wanted to say, but I've probably whittled on long enough. Yeah, it's a 45-minute video. Oh my god. Anyway. So if you stuck around all the way through, then I doubt you've learnt anything new about the Smiths, apart from how they entwine my life. There we go. The most important band of the 80s for me. Right.